YouTube. Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 354. I am your host Nathan Springer, co-host. Thank you for being here. And it's presently the 28th of February. It would have been the last day of the year if not that we had some kind of weird janky year system here where every 4 years there's an extra day in February. So we have an extra day tomorrow. Play a little Trinidad to start tonight, please. Hey, bro, you getting tied up with those Trinidad artists. Those guys have their music registered. I run some Trinidad here, and you're going to see my live get pulled off in 2 seconds. Those guys are collecting their paper for their copyright. They aren't playing that, and I don't blame them. I mean, don't let people just take your creative juices for free. Secular don't necessarily mean immoral, Gersh says. No, it doesn't necessarily mean that, but secular, I would say that oh, Freudian slip. That secular has no way of identifying, orienting morality. Anyway, speaking of what's the topics as Positive Radiation asked there, we're going to dive straight into it. We're going to get into some, as I said, I have limited time tonight, but we have to get in some political ideology in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's not just a random conversation, but it's a conversation about several stories I saw in the news, and those stories kind of paint a picture. They paint a picture of the nature of Trinidad and Tobago's politics and what some people see as the way these politics unfold. Let's see if I can pull that up and jump in there. First up with MSJ. MSJ urges government, don't raise Tiantec rates. The Movement for Social Justice. That's the political party in our country that is basically an arm of the labor unions. They're as it were our labor party. Now, I have many suspicions about the labor movement, but we're going to see what they have to say. MSJ urges government, don't raise the Tiantec rates. The Movement for Social Justice has once again condemned the increase in electricity rates proposed by the Regulated Industries Commission. Now, as I say the name there, those who peruse a lot of YouTube content, or who did it especially back in the teens, the 20-teens, 2013 till 2019, there was a lot, a heaping load, a lot of YouTube content watching social justice warriors and their intentions. And we have a party here that finds its name out of a movement for such a thing. Now, the reason that social justice in and of itself is kind of a strange concept is because if justice is being properly sorted, hi host, yeah, if justice is being properly sorted, social justice would be included in that. Justice would include all forms of justice. King of King, we don't do the trolling here. This is your only warning. You would be muted or blocked. We don't do the trolling here. You listen and make sense. If you smoked a bad grade and you want to go just spout weirdness, find another live. That's not how we do it here. Yeah. She found I was a bit loud there. What year was the radio behind me made? Before probably any one of us in the live was born. Good night, Savi. Okay, Savi, like I just can't be shouting your name so loud. People would say that I'm a weird guy. These kind of names you all jump up with here. But yeah, if something is justice, yes, it's been a while, Savi, it's been a while. If something is justice, you don't need social justice. You don't need to include the word social into it because it's supposed to be justice. If justice doesn't include social justice, then it was not really justice in the first place. Anyway, speaking with the media in front of the Ministry of Public Utilities building on Tragarete Road, Port of Spain on February 28th, the party's political leader David Abdullah said there is a viable alternative to the rate increase that involves the reintegration of power generation into the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission, a move he believes will be financially beneficial to TNTech and its customers. If the power producers were integrated, there would be an immediate savings of $250 million a year, and there would be no profit for the middleman, and this too would save millions of dollars. This too would save millions of dollars, he says. Now, here's the curious thing for me. When he says reintegration, what exactly is he referring to? Because I get the feeling that he is saying he wants the state to take control of the power generation companies. Reintegrate it, as in make it state-owned and state-run. And he is attempting to convince us that when this is done, we will see real savings. You see, this is the issue in politics so often. This is the issue in politics so often. Yes, many people are right when they point at a specific government or a specific political group or political ideology and say they are wrong. That will not work. They might be right in their description of what the problem is. The problem comes when it comes to prescription, as in, what is the solution going to be? So, okay, people in Trinidad, probably we don't want to be paying any higher rates and all of this kind of thing. We really don't want that. But the solution of the unionists, who are generally left-leaning, who are usually socialists, many of them communists, bear in mind many labor unions were literally formed out of Marxist movements. But anyway, they're convincing us that the solution here is for the government to own it all. And when the government owns it, that is when we will really see real profit for the people. If the people want profit, give it all to the government. Right. Because that works so well in every other area. He went on to go through the descriptive processes of what's bad with it and how expensive it would be and all of that. And he's right, I don't doubt him there. But he went on further. Abdullah also criticized the government and the Minister of Finance's property tax for residential homes, saying the government should tax the rich. Another slogan, if you all pay attention to the left out there, that the government should tax the rich with multi-million-dollar commercial properties. He said government economics is neoliberal economics, which favors private enterprise and aims to move control of economic factors from the government to the private sector. And he says that like it's a bad thing. Here's the thing, though. When people speak about neoliberal politics, many times people are confused about what exactly they mean when they say neoliberal. So neoliberal basically speaks about a return to capitalism of a certain extent. In a kind of way, neoliberalism could more accurately be called crony capitalism. Neoliberalism, to a large extent, is crony capitalism. When people call you a neoliberal, they generally picture you as a crony capitalist with the American world order rules-based system as your anchor. That's what neoliberalism is. Neoliberalism is that movement that started around the 80s, 70s, trying to bring back some free market, sell off government ownership of stuff, you know, what most people who like capitalist stuff would like. But also included in neoliberalism was globalism. So neoliberalism isn't exactly talking about capitalism or libertarianism or classical liberalism or anything like that, for those of you who are familiar with the terms. It's speaking about a little different shade, because many people who might be firmly free market may not necessarily be globalists. And they actually leaned in the neoliberal movement to the American style of monetary policy, where they control the amount of money in the system. So that's the neoliberalism they speak about. But either way, when he says neoliberalism here, he basically points at the idea of selling off government control on the economy. And he says that like it's a bad thing. Why don't the government just pay their bill owed to T-Tech? Like, y'all buy this Nancy story nonsense? T-Tech is owned by the government, and the government owes T-Tech money. So the government owes the government money. And are y'all not following this? Blessings from the island where I pay $130 for some fish and peas today from a shed. Well, I notice RL is a rich man and the kind of money he spends. But that's a Nancy story they be hitting us. The government owing the government money. It's a way to hide numbers in the books, really and truly. But either way, with the MSJ speaking about the government trying to, you know, neoliberalize the place, sell off the public ownership and turn it into private ownership. That's the style of governance we have. I don't actually believe that's true anyway. Even though he's saying it, I don't actually believe that's the style of politics we subscribe to here. Yes, we subscribe to globalism. Yes, we subscribe to the American style of monetary policy. I forgot the name of that. But yes, the American style where they can control it, and we are into that rules-based system. But no, we do not believe in the free market and capitalism out here. Al-Rawi promises business hubs for communities. Let's look at this story and see the type of politics we do here in Trinidad and Tobago. Rural Development and Local Government Minister Faris Al-Rawi is promising communities across the country local economic development zones which will cater to their needs. The first such initiative was launched on Wednesday in Pleasantville, a $700,000 structure on Parakeet Boulevard with 6 booths and a washroom that will be used to provide primarily food services to the community. Al-Rawi told reporters, there are several similar units being constructed across the country, with some as close as Bayshore, Marabella, and Mbakade, San Fernando. He said these are to help foster entrepreneurship and to serve the needs of the community. Take the case of Mbakade, 2,200 people living in Mbakade, not one grocery, not one hairdressing spot, not one place for vegetables. Why? Why would 2,200 people have no facilities? Look here, look at what $700,000 produces. Imagine that in every single HDC community across the country. And this is the very definition of not being free market. This is not what you call free market. The government builds your home in a constructed community, places you in that home, builds the business in the location the government decides the business would be best in, and tells you go there and you can sell these 5 things. That's not entrepreneurship. The question he's asking here of the residents of Mbakade is the question he's legitimately supposed to ask the residents of Mbakade. Why are you all not opening your own groceries or your own hairdressing spots? That's a question for the people. That's not a question for the government to solve. That's not free market. And that's not neoliberalism that the MSJ is worried Trinidad is heading into. That's not what we do over here. We don't do that here. We are not that kind of, super free society. Lack of easy credit and foreign currency. Really, I wonder who built Arangwe's facilities. I'm not quite sure. But here's something interesting. Gyro's men landed from where they landed 10 years ago in our country. Started with a knock-up cart at the side of the road selling their mystery meat that everybody considers lamb. And now these gyro men have the best facilities. If you see the little spots they're setting up, the little concrete structure with a little metal grill here and and their price list is in bright lights and all of this, did they need the GOT, the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago? Did they need them to come and create a gyro facility to place all the gyro men there so that they can develop their entrepreneurship under the watchful eye of the government? Gyros and doublesmen know how to use financial institutions really well though, which is a good thing for them. And I love it. I'm glad for it. More power to the gyros men. But this is the model immigrant thing. I mean, I'm not using that for the model immigrant argument even. I'm using that to speak about entrepreneurship. Yeah, I understand that, but I'm not using that to debate whether the immigrants perform better than the locals. I'm using that to speak about the government's responsibility. And the government, at least the kind of government I want, is not the kind of government that needs to go and force feed us entrepreneurship. And relating that to what the MSJ leader said, where he accused our governments, our leadership in Trinidad, of being neoliberal in nature because they're aiming at free market decisions, this is evidence that no, that's not how we run our country, actually. It is not. We decide where money would be best spent. When I say we, I mean the government decides where money would be best spent, and then they spend it there. Let's see the kind of politics that Trinidad actually does have. Unity between UNC NTA evaporates as Gary fires back at Kamla. Disheartening, divisive, dismissive, and disrespectful to third parties. That's how National Transformation Alliance leader Gary Griffith described Monday's statements by United National Congress leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar about smaller parties, as the unity between the two seemed to drift apart yesterday. However, Griffith said the problem was not really Persad-Bissessar, but UNC Deputy Leader Jolene Dron. I have no problem with Kamla, Griffith added yesterday, but Jolene has been the issue. The problem is Kamla is being influenced by Jolene and falling victim to Jolene's fantasy that the UNC can win general elections alone. It seems Jolene has now won over Kamla to thinking that. But Griffith said the NTA will continue to soldier on, extending a hand of cooperation and dialogue to all political entities, including the UNC. But the NTA won't be party to political domestic violence, being abused and bullied behind closed doors. And when we come out in public, you want us to put on makeup and pretend all's well and smile. Kamala always being influenced like she's a flag. Oh gosh. Griffith spoke about Prasad Bisesa. Prasad Bisesa warned smaller parties that while the UNC is open to working with others of similar vision, she won't allow her members to be disrespected. This after a recent anonymous social media post hinting at issues between the UNC and NTA. Both parties entered an electoral arrangement. Let's see if we could get a history of what exactly Tanti Kams spoke about. UNC NTA leaders spar over tribal politics. She said that other parties Kamala Prasad Bisesa was saying that other parties are free to join the UNC. She said their vision must align with the UNC's and bring something to the table. Tanti Kams is listening to red pill content out there. She says that these smaller parties must bring something to the table. Gersh says, I always say the old guard need to change, but the young guys I personally know in politics, I don't trust. So I'm not reading that one, but yeah. You see, that's the same thing that I was speaking about at the beginning when we were talking about MSJ. That yes, many people could diagnose the right problem, but most of them don't have the right solutions. So yeah, many of the old guard aren't really good, but are they better in the new? There certainly will be worse. Prasad Bisesa even came out in a rare defense of the ruling PNM supporters, saying neither they nor opposition voters should be accused of voting along racial lines. Tanti Kams is defending the status quo. Prasad Bisesa directed her message to smaller and newer political parties who accuse the UNC and PNM of tribal politics. That is more of a talking point used by people trying to forge a political space that has never been carefully analyzed, Prasad Bisesa told supporters. The notion that some peddle about, that people want something other than the UNC or PNM, meaning people want them, and then say vote for us is a tribal vote, it is not true. She said there are single-issue and multi-issue voters in democracies, and that the UNC has all of these voters within it. Listen. Unpopular opinion, PA's strategy is better for the long term. Gigi lost ground by joining the UNC. I agree. A loose cannon, predictably being a loose cannon, what's new? Someone is alleging all 30-some politicians was corrupt in UE student guild. I was a student in UE and I know nothing of this corruption you speak of, sir. So these are allegations made by one Gush, not allegations made by the co-host here of Mindful Live. I know nothing of such. Gigi's more popular and message got diluted by joining that platform. I agree. But I also agree with Kamala Prasad Bisesa's evaluation of this. And I am amazed. I am literally amazed that the leader of the UNC can speak with such clarity and nuance. She understands that all voters for PNM and UNC are not necessarily tribal voters. That there are single-issue and multi-issue voters. Some may be tribal, some may vote along racial lines, but we have a catchment of all of those. I am impressed. Since when our political leaders understand these things? I am shook. And she's saying this not only about the UNC, but about the PNM too. Like, since when? She is understanding that the PNM voters aren't necessarily racist voters. They aren't necessarily voting along racial lines. That the people who are saying those things, she said it there, they are attempting to forge for themselves a political lane. That is more of a talking point used by people trying to forge a political space that has never been carefully analyzed. She is right. She is right. When people say that all votes for UNC are racist based and all votes for PNM are racist based, many of the times the people who are saying those things are trying to create a political space where they pull voters from PNM and UNC to create their own political space. And the accusations of race-based voting in the PNM and UNC solely has not actually been analyzed. I mean, you can actually point out Gary Griffith, his annoyance with the UNC currently, according to him, is that Jolene John is too powerful inside of the UNC and she's influencing the UNC's leader to do unwise things. Listen, I don't know if many of you are familiar with who Jolene John is, but she is not Asian. Let me put it that way. Very much not Asian. Just as one Austin Jack Warner was very much not Asian. So, okay, it's obvious that there isn't only exclusively a racial side to all of this. Mention the retraction here. Yes. Gersh retracted the libellous statement. It's not all of the UE Guild, but some of them. Dane Khan says Gary got a feather in his cap riding the UNC's coattails for the local government elections. He want to dictate pace. But here's the thing. Gary always wants to dictate. Has Gary ever played second fiddle for anyone? This man was the commissioner of police and beefing with the prime minister, who appoints the president, who appoints the commission, who appoints you. You expect this man to just, mind his place, mind his business, know his place, and stay in the shadows and wait his turn? I just regret I never applied for my FEL when Gary was top cup. Me too, Gish. Dead serious, me too. PNM usually dominates the highly populated areas, i.e. more seats. Yeah, the UNC has more safe seats. That's true. Remember when he said he couldn't get summoned? Yes. So, I mean, like, when I heard that allegedly they were beefing, I was like, oh my goodness, who could have predicted this? Who could have predicted this? What? The lone cowboy doesn't want to play fair game with everyone else? Really? The tanty who wants to be the sole leader till she leaves this mortal coil. People are shocked that changes aren't allowed inside her party. Really? You're shocked that the person who wants to turn stone there doesn't want to allow changes, and the person who is the star of everything they are in doesn't want to cooperate and go along with it? How you could have more safe seats and struggling to win an election? That's the point that Gary was making. The UNC has safe seats, but they do not have as much general wide appeal. So, because the UNC has safe seats, if you are able to convince a coalition to join you, it's easy to win because all you need are a couple more. But You are unable to get that couple more on your own. Nearly no one is going to select you out of your safe voting group. You don't have that appeal. And that's what many people are lamenting about with Tanti Cams, because that's already what seems to be an intractable problem with the UNC. Join the party, pay annual subscriptions, then you'll have your say on who the UNC leader is. Sure. If you believe that, I have a Nigerian prince who is a cousin and he has an inheritance that he has just for you, Wide Leather. If you believe what you just wrote there. So if you believe that, message me in DMs and send me your credit card information, because we have to get a small fee for processing. We have to get a small processing fee that we would take that from your credit card, and don't worry, your inheritance is sure. If you believe what you just typed, please DM me your credit card information. Thanks. About vote, and like if you have a say on that. Sure, that's how it works. Sure. But for those of us who are not as gullible, we understand that these problems are not very easy to solve because of the nature of how political parties are created. They get to make their rules. The political party is a private organization. Good night, Chris Scott. In case you all don't know, a political party is a private organization. They dictate their rules. They say how they run their party for the most part. And okay, you know, White Leather, the truth is, nothing, Chris Scott, we're just talking. The truth is, White Leather, it doesn't bother me personally, you know. It doesn't bother me personally like that. But if the supporters of Tanti Cams, are so strong in their support for her, okay, well, you will be satisfied constantly supporting an opposition leader. And if that's what you like, you enjoy supporting the opposition on a continuous basis, and you wish for an unbroken period of PNM leadership, just like back in the days of Eric Williams, well, then continue selecting Cams, and you are going to keep getting that. It's as simple as, like when Dr. Rowley keeps, as the Trini saying goes, titivaying with the talk of retiring, or would I retire or would I not retire? Maybe, might be, maybe not. Well, the reason he can't keep doing that is because he's facing the same leader that he keeps beating. Listen, if I am a politician, it means I like power. Don't believe them if they talk about, you know, they're just doing this for the people. If I'm a politician, I like power. If I like power, and when I look into the future, I see that the next election I have to fight is going to be against the same person I have beaten in the last 4 elections I fought. Why would I retire now? Like, why? Imagine if you're an athlete and you were the top of your game and no youth comes into the sport. You're just facing the same opponents every year. And every year you're winning a couple million winning. Why would you ever retire? You know what might make you retire? Any younger person joining. So to answer your question, Wide Leather, who would I like to see leading the UNC? Nearly anybody else, to be very honest with you. But certainly not one Dr. Monilal, not Mr. Ram Logan. I don't think they would win or even provide a challenge if they select men like that. But just about nearly anyone else would have a wider country appeal. And I'm not saying this on a basis of being a UNC supporter or wanting UNC to win. necessarily. I'm just talking about the nature of politics in Trinidad and Tobago, and if we want to see some kind of movement in our politics. Saddam Hussein is a good candidate for the leader of the party. I think he might be a bit young, in my personal opinion. I think he might be a bit young, and what you have to look at in politics also is it's not just our peer group that votes. It's, in fact, it's mostly not young people that vote. The vast majority of people that vote are people over 40. And how many people over 40 would trust someone under 40 to lead? You know, it's a difficult thing. Kiara has the opportunity to set a precedent to serve 2 complete consecutive terms. Hasn't happened since Dr. Williams. Wow. That's what we need in this political era, Chris Scott says. I don't necessarily think so, you know. Many people say that, but I don't necessarily think so. When I look at the general views of many of the young people, I think we're going to put a young person there and mess around and end up in a socialist dictatorship in a short period of time. Some one of those young people are going to run in and come in with climate change, and Trinidad and Tobago isn't progressive enough, and we need to get more forward thinking and advance our social laws and Bill Clinton was young as well and grasped the young vote in USA history, and he was elected. How young was Bill Clinton when he was elected? Wasn't he in his 40s? Wasn't he in his 40s? Like, if I were to select someone, based on age, I might say probably like 45. Climate change is a big issue, and I don't like how you just be casting it aside like that, especially for a geo man like you. I think climate change is the biggest issue that we don't actually have control over. And I think people screaming at the clouds over what the climate does is one of the oldest religions known to man. And trying to dandy it up in the terms of science doesn't make it any less of a religion. It is a religion. It is faith-based. The models don't predict what they say it predicts. And it's strange to me, almost all the solutions to fix the climate is communism. That's so strange to me. Almost all the solutions to fix the climate reaches to communism. Sorry, no thanks. No thanks. And I'm under 30 and I find our generation a little unrealistic. Thank you, Kashif Campbell. One said 45 is old. What happened to the hole in the ozone? Don't ask those hard questions now, man. Don't ask those hard questions now. The hole in the ozone, and to global cooling and global warming and global dimming and all of the predictions since 1960 something that not one have come true. And the people they still hold as the eminent experts in this have been making predictions since the 60s and have not come accurate on one. Not one. Bro, Wendell, the reason this aggravates me is because I am a geo and an environmental man. I love the environment. I love animals. I went into environmental geography and biology because I like animals, I like nature, I like all of that. But these people have been lying to me my whole life. All of the work I learn as you get older and you really dig into it, lots of lies. Lots of lies. And then they will all jump on their private jets, all 300 private jets landing down in Switzerland to come and tell us that, you know what, y'all need to stop flying around the world because your carbon footprint is too big. Rest me on that, eh? Reeve, I do believe that it's a major issue. I do believe it's a major issue. I just believe that what they're telling us is lies. That don't mean to say it's not real issues that need to be addressed. I agree 100%. 100%. But I think how we address climate change is throw away climate change, throw away the religious term, and let's return to what we always knew. We have to maintain our environment. Every human civilization, since man began being civilized, knew we have to manage our you see, that's where we go wrong. That's where we go wrong. Where all of a sudden we attempt to manage carbon dioxide. Reeve, I urge you to dig deeper into this carbon dioxide business as if we have so much say in the matter. And as if we can control all of those things. You know, it's amazing to me. We think that the governments that are unable to manage minimum wage to keep inflation at one level would be able to regulate the amount of microscopic gas that flows in the Earth's atmosphere as it interchanges between the soil, the biomass, and the air. We believe that governments that cannot control inflation would be able to control the gases in the air. Come now, man. We have to be a little more realistic than that. We have to be more realistic than that. Way more realistic. Anyway, as I was speaking about the age thing, someone said 45 is old. I don't think 45 is old. I think 45 is right at the proper age. The reason being, I don't want someone who is still on the up of creating a family, generally speaking. You want someone that is, as it were, at the pinnacle of their career while still having some vigor in them. You want someone experienced, capable, and knowledgeable to lead your country. You want someone like that. And if, like the way I think about it, if someone is capable at 35, that same person, would they be more capable at 45, generally speaking? Age 45 is good, but who do we have at that age right now with a vigor to make the hard choices for? I wasn't talking about anybody in specific. Someone asked me about an age, and I said, if I could have chosen a perfect age, good point, Gush, but if I could have chosen a perfect age, I would have chosen someone 45. So at 50, they are incapable? No, I didn't say at 50 they are incapable. At 45, if you come in at 45 and stay 2 terms in leadership in Trinidad, you're going to end your career at 55. Before retirement. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. Late 30s to mid 40s, to be honest, in my opinion. I could dig with that. The biggest issue is a cultural issue. It doesn't matter the age. Here's the thing, though, Gush. I think that the age affects the cultural issues. That's just the reality. The age affects the cultural issues. What people see as being important changes and fluctuates with age. Listen, I could tell you, I am in my early 30s now. I would not have wanted 25-year, early 20s Nathan to rule over a society that I am in. I could speak for myself. 10 years in the future, as I am now, 10 years in the past, that would have been a scary guy to just let lead. And trust me, early 20s Nathan would have been sure he able. Because that youth, sure he bright, might be a little arrogant, a touch of narcissism here and there, need the world to peg him down a few rungs. You would have had good advisors. White leather. In your general experience, do young people choose the best advice? You become an adult when you're responsible for another life. It's not age. RL, I kind of agree with you, but I think, never say what again, Ronnie, but I think that age affects when you are going to become responsible for our next life. Reeve, behave yourself. Reeve, I will not have you. I will not have you. Yes, Parryman, I have an article with just that. We'll talk about that probably tomorrow. We'll talk about that probably tomorrow. All right. Yeah, I just don't think that the youth may be the ideal idea. And RL, the age I spoke about with 45, the age kind of has to do with the children too. There's a reason in most countries they don't elect people who don't have children. I don't want anybody without children leading my country. You have no say in the future. Your line ends with you. Let people who have lineage going on into the future deal with these matters. You just sit down and enjoy your life. You enjoy your life because that's all there is to it. You sit down there and relax yourself. This kind of future planning business is for people who care about future. And that's why I said 45 too. The idea generally being someone at 45 isn't someone now entering that parenting business. And they aren't someone that has well exited it far out of their reach. Come on, you're calling names. They don't elect people without wives and children. Correct, Gish. Correct. 100%. And that should be understood. I'm not a proponent of children without wives. So that should be understood. When I'm talking about someone with children, it should be understood that I'm talking about wives. Hey, don't discriminate on us childless people. We have nieces and nephews too. I won't discriminate against you all personally, but when we're talking leadership for a country, I just find you don't have as much vested generally. Anyway, people, listen, I have to go pick up somebody from somewhere and I can't be late, so I have to dive out. KFC should be rebranded, to be honest, and free up them US franchise fees. Maybe. You're only responsible for your cat, so it's no big deal. Fact! Bro, let's not get the sinks and the dinks angry tonight. Let's not get the sinks and the dinks angry tonight. White leather. I didn't say where I was going. And that facility works 24 hours, doesn't it? The El Salvador president is 43. Good age. Good age. Be mindful, not mindless. And I thank you guys for tuning in. This has been the Mindful Live Show. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Spring. I'll be seeing you guys again tomorrow night. We'll be discussing just what we're doing in the end here. That's all we do tomorrow on Thursday. Please do join tomorrow evening where we'll be having our Thursday talks, just discussing whatever topic arises inside of the live. Feel free to join in over on TikTok, over on Instagram, or on YouTube as we stream. If you are not yet subscribed, please do head over to YouTube. You could catch all of the lives on repeat there if you miss it. Until tomorrow, people, peace out. Later.